rugby league this year is a serious business with so many changes in and around the sport, with the well-documented split between Super League and the RFL, and I'm certainly looking for an exciting season under the new leadership of Robert Elston. How do you feel, Ian, about the new era of Super League?
I think it's a great start. If you actually look at what Super League has done with fixturing, particularly throughout the season, but the start of the season, Wigan Saints first game, Wigan playing Leeds at home the following Friday, that's a great start with a big bang to the season. But if you look at the fixtures across the whole of the season now, without the Super 8s, Middle 8s, which was a bit of a problem towards the end of the season. We've now got a great fixture list all the way across, lots of Friday nights, Saturdays, Sundays. We're very happy with where we are, with what is the key thing for the fans, which is the fixtures across the season. Sundays,
I love that, because traditionally fans love to go out on a Sunday, and in the last few years we had Thursday, which we understand with Sky. Friday games have been the norm, but Sundays are important for the culture and the history for Wigan.
They're very important as well for our far-flung fans who live in Scotland or Ireland or down in the south. And Friday night is not the easiest night for them, so they, in our surveys of fans, have often said, can we have some Sunday or Saturday games? And in the past we've not been able to accommodate that because the fixturing flexibility wasn't there under the RFL. Under Robert Elston and Super League controlling its own fixture list, we've got that for this year, and people are delighted.
One thing I'm excited about this year, more than anything, I think, is your trip and the vision to play at the new camp. I think it's going to be one of the main new opportunities for the sport to reach a new audience. It's potentially going to engage a whole new Catalan audience for that club, and obviously the Wigan brand will grow enormously by the exposure of playing at the new camp.
You're absolutely right with that, and I think Wigan over the past 3, 4, 5 years, with trips to Australia, with playing in London, the Capital Challenge that's on this Friday, for example, against London Scholars, with some of our first team and some of our academy, we've got a history of actually promoting the international club game, and I think the new camp in particular will be a big event. To be playing in such an iconic stadium with the Challenge Cup holders against the champions is a spectacular event, and if, as it is being mooted, the Catalans play in Barcelona colours, because Catalonia obviously is Barcelona, they're almost synonymous with each other, I think it'll be fabulous. And I know that thousands of Wiganers have booked their flights already to get over there. Even though the tickets are not yet on sale, they booked the flights, and there's loads of flights into Barcelona.
One thing that's been quite disappointing from a Super League perspective and an English club perspective has been the dominance of the Australian teams in the World Club Challenge over a few years. Obviously you guys won it a couple of years ago against Cronulla, which was fantastic, but apart from that, it's been a bit of a struggle for the Super League teams. Are you looking forward to the Sydney Roosters coming over and you guys giving them a real tough test? Because I think you've got a very strong squad this year.
We think we've got a strong squad, and it's quite interesting. I think we're third favourites generally, but we don't mind that, because when you look at Leeds and St Helens and Warrington and Hull and Catalans, it's a very strong top end of the season, and I'm not excluding anybody there, because Castleford always surprise you with what they can do, and Huddersfield have done in the past. If we actually look at Sydney, the best thing about the Sydney Roosters is the fact that they immediately agreed to come over here and play, which I think is a tribute to the fact that Super League is being well thought of, that Wigan beat Cronulla 2 years ago, that Wigan have played at Roosters already in the World Club Challenge. We lost on that occasion. I think we're getting the benefit of some of those initiatives, and it'll be a great game. I think ticket sales are good at the moment. They're well ahead of where we were in the Cronulla game 2 years ago. We're dramatically looking forward to it, and if you take that game, the new camp, and playing at Anfield against Warrington, that's not a a bad trio of games.
I was just going to get on to the Magic Weekend, and it's going to Anfield. Pasture's new for the competition. Yep. Robert's obviously got a great history of work in that city,
yep.
and I'm sure he's going to be pulling some strings around Liverpool to make sure the fan experience is even better than it was at Newcastle. And do you think it was time for change for the Magic Weekend?
I welcome the move to Anfield, not least of which because the considerable investment by our fans in going to games is higher when you have to stay overnight, and you don't have to stay overnight necessarily. You can go to the 2 days if you want to in Liverpool quite easily, certainly for the Lancashire-based teams, but it's not even difficult for the Yorkshire-based teams. So I think the change is a welcome change. Newcastle was great. I'm not in any way knocking that. That was superb for the environment and for the atmosphere. But I think Anfield's will be as good, if not better.
And now, for me, if I had to pick a man of the year in Rugby League last year, out of all the leagues, out of all the players and the coaches, my man of the year would be Danny Ward from London Broncos. What he achieved in Jamie Langley and the team down there, I thought was phenomenal. I'm a big supporter of Toronto. I love the whole initiative. I love those guys in the expansion. But I think having London in Super League this year is going to be quite special. It's going to be a real challenge for them. But are you looking forward to taking a Wigan team back down to play the Broncos?
I obviously have a special relationship with London Broncos, so I welcome them and David Hughes and Danny Ward into Super League. And Wigan has always enjoyed the trip down to play against the Broncos. I also have the credit of the fact that I actually signed Danny Ward for London Broncos, albeit as a player all those years ago. But that was in my last year as chairman of London Broncos, and I think that the job that he's done is superb.
Last question, you mentioned him before. He's a huge fan of the show, he's a huge friend of the show, Zach Hardacre. I remember him as a young lad coming to my garage when I first started in 2012, and he's always been so full of energy, so full of life. And what's always never been in doubt with Zach is a spectacularly good player. You've got an amazing player, but off-field problems have plagued his career. What's different about Wigan? What's different about the Wigan club that's going to help Zach combat his off-field problems and become the player and the person that we all know he can be?
There are two elements to that answer. One of them lies within Zach Hardacre and the other one lies within Wigan.
Yep.
As far as Zach is concerned, I think he has, with the help of Tony Adams and Sporting Chance, re-evaluated his life.
Yep.
And had he not done that, he would have left Wigan. But in doing that, in having a month of rehab of quality, and I mean quality in terms of what that organisation can do, he's got himself at the starting line of a new career and a new future. He could fall over, he could fall back. I don't think he will, but he could do. And behind that, then you've got the second element, which is the Wigan support structure. And if you take Steve McCormack as an example, as our welfare manager, Chris Radlinski, the whole structure of how we manage players, we've done rather well with John Bateman, who was occasionally a naughty boy in the past, but has really developed well. We have a discipline and a structure that we think is special. That's not to say that other clubs can't do it or don't do it, but at this point in time with his career, with what Wigan can support Zach with, and his decision to go forward positively, the two things are in sync with each other.
Like Leeds, over the last few years, Wigan have lost some really big names, some people who've won trophies for the club, obviously in the coaching department and on the playing field. Which player will you personally miss the most from pulling on the cherry and white?
Because it's 12 years now, that's almost like 3 sequences of players.
You can pick a couple then. You can have a couple.
Sam Tompkins in his early days was spectacularly good. Sean O'Loughlin has dramatically helped the club for 17 years now. But one of the earliest signings I ever made was a Samoan centre, George, if you remember. I've forgotten George's second name now. But George, who we signed when Samoa were playing against the USA in Featherstone back in it must have been 2009, was probably the best player in terms of contribution to Wigan that I've ever come across.
Really?
I can't even remember his second name at the moment, but all the fans will remember who I mean.
Absolutely outstanding, Ian. Best of luck this year. We'll surely see you on Rugby more than often. Good luck.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.